Connaughton.
I'll see you. See you, Patty C. All right, it's Marcus Johnson. We're going to chop it up with Olskool. Pat Connaughton has agreed to join us. Can you give me a little chopping it up? Just do this from a little. Yeah, we're going to chop it up. We're at the Potawatomi Hotel and Casino, the presidential suite. You like my digs here?
Yeah,
man?
Your digs are nice, man. They treat you nice around here. I'm gonna hang around with you more often.
Yeah, well, this is not an everyday thing. This is special, and it's just for you, man. But tell me, man. First of all, what do you like to do to decompress after a long season? It's a long, hard season. What's Pat Connaughton's favorite things to do?
I like the beach. I'm a big fan of the beach. I go back home. I got a little place in New Hampshire with some, family and friends. Some of my little cousins hang out on the beach, run around like I'm a big kid. I like to play golf. And then I like getting back in the gym, but like strength and conditioning. I like working out, trying to get my body back to a place where it needs to be, because after a long year, as you know, you got nicks and bruises, and you're not really lifting weights as much during the season because you got 82 games and playoffs. And so I like kind of getting into that little bit of a rhythm at the end of the year.
Pat, I don't think people understand how quickly this thing goes. Now, you're about to turn 30 in a few months now. You've been in the league for a while. Have you had to alter or change your workout routine, or is it basically the same as it's always been?
I think I've adapted over time, right? I think, when you're young, you can play every single day. You don't feel anything on your joints. You don't feel anything on your tendons. But as you get older, you play so many games, you start to feel that. So how do you adjust? How do you find ways to, for example, if you're lifting a ton of heavy weight, maybe you lift less heavy weight, but you do more reps. Maybe you get more range of motion. Maybe you do more stretching. I've gotten into some hot yoga, which kills me. And like little things like that to keep yourself feeling young, keep your legs feeling good, and really utilizing that off season, because you play so many damn games that off season, in my opinion, is integral in trying to make sure you get your body back to a healthy place.
And I remember talking to you a couple of years ago, and you talked about how some of the Notre Dame guys would get together back in South Bend and during your off season play a little basketball. Any of that happened this past off season?
Yeah, so this off season was tough because a lot of the guys that go overseas, they can go overseas early. And some of my teammates, Jaron, Grant, Bonte Colson, Zach August, like they've got phenomenal careers going over there. So teams want them back there in July, and they won't want them playing summer league and things like that. So I try to go back and play with some of the young guys. I was back at ND this past weekend for a football game, and I got on court with some of the current team. And Blake Wesley, who's going to be a rookie for the Spurs, played at Notre Dame last year. He came back, and we tried to make sure we shed some light onto the young guys and put them in a good spot to try to have some success this year in the ACC.
And I saw Peter Fagan was there.
Yep, we brought Peter.
Zora Stevenson was there. It was like a Bucks reunion.
100%.
Was that planned, or it just happened to work out that way?
No, it just happened to work out that way. Peter, he wanted to come, and I told him he had to be on his best behavior, and I'd say it was about 50% of his best behavior. Zora was working for NBC and doing some stuff on the sidelines, and she got to interview Coach Freeman on his first win, and she did a phenomenal job. So it was fun to have a little bit of a Bucks contingent out there in South Bend.
Yeah, kind of this funky jumpsuit thing.
Yeah, she did.
It looked good.
Yeah, 100%. She pulled it off. She pulled it off. I couldn't pull it off.
Not me either. Not many people could pull that off.
Yeah.
But Lady Z, as I like to call her, she pulled that off, man. And let's talk about you specifically. Is there a story behind, and I'll preface it with this. When I moved at 11 years old from South Central to a better section of South Central, but it was a lot of hills.
Yep.
And so I'm riding the bikes up hills, running up hills all the time, and I really think that helped me. Jerry Rice, for example, the wide receiver, a Hall of Famer for the 49ers, he used to catch bricks at summertime jobs on construction that he had that made his hands strong. Is there any story behind your hops, or is this all God-given, or is there a story behind that?
No, very similar to what you're talking about. I used to be Jerry Rice for Halloween growing up, so I know very well who Jerry Rice is. I did not know he caught bricks, though. But for me, it was a lot similar to what you said. Like, my dad got me a weight vest at a young age, and we had a bunch of hills. My house was on a hill. I had a little ledge in my backyard that was like out near our patio. And I ran those hills with that weight vest on, and running up the hill and walking down the hill is almost as hard with the quads and how much you got to make sure you're keeping your balance. And then I tried to do jumps up and down on that ledge, single leg, double leg. I had to work at it. Now part of it, I'm sure it was God-given, but I had to work hard at it to get it to the place where it is. I worked really hard on it. I would say when I got to high school, I knew. I looked myself in the mirror, and I'm a 6'5" guy that's known as a baseball player. Like the athleticism and passing that eye test and being able to do some 360 dunks and some things in layup lines was going to help me get to the college level and help me get to that Division I college level. So I spent a lot of time in the gym back home with my trainer, and we did a lot of different things. But at a young age, it was all about the hills. It was all about playing and being outside.
Jumping up and down the ledge in the backyard with the weight vest, you think that really helped? What's your vertical been measured at, if you remember?
So back in the combine, it was at like 43, 44 inches. Yeah, I would say it's probably 40 now. I got to get it back a little bit. But again, for me, like I knew going into that combine, people knew I could play basketball, but they wanted to see if I was athletic enough to play in the NBA.
Yeah.
And so vertical jump, but like the things that were, I knew I could jump. Jumping that high was impressive to me, but it was the other stuff. It was the lane agility drill, it was the shuttle drill, it was the full court speed drill. I ranked in the top 3 or 4 in every single category of people that competed at the combine. So I think that really helped show that I could, make it in the league.
And you talked about playing baseball. You said people knew you as a baseball player, but you had like a 90+ mile per hour fastball. So it's like saying Mona Lisa is just another painting. But you played some professional baseball.
I did. I played pro baseball for a summer in between my junior and senior year of college. So baseball was a sport that everyone kind of thought I would play. It was a sport I was projected higher in. I had more talent in. I'm a 6'5" pitcher that could throw at 97 miles an hour.
Yeah, look out. But why basketball?
I always loved it a little bit more. And for me, like I had to work hard at basketball to make it to where I am. And I didn't want to give up on it before I kind of saw it through. So I played that summer of pro baseball, and I told the Orioles, hey, before they draft me, I'm going to go back for my senior year of basketball. And they were cool with it. They said, that's perfectly fine. Like I wanted to get my degree, and I wanted to finish out my time at Notre Dame. And I had a great senior year, and I was fortunate to get drafted. And I kind of said to myself, well, if I'm going to give one a try, and if one of them's not going to work, which one can I go back to? I think it's a lot easier to go back to baseball at a 29-year-old, right? Then I couldn't come back to basketball if I didn't make it in baseball.
Yeah. The dunk contest. I remember you and I and Chris and Giannis and Thanasis, we did this promo, this white men can't jump. Not so much about the dunk contest itself, but just in terms of a player, a white guy like yourself, you're coming in, you and Grayson Allen, I mean, to me, as athletic as anybody, white or black in the league right now. But has that been something that you've had to kind of overcome is too strong of a word, but just consciously on your mind, just having to prove your athleticism and show how athletic you were, and you talk about that, man, just if there's anything to talk about.
Stereotypes are a part of the game, right? Like they come from somewhere. Like there are a lot of white guys in the NBA that aren't athletic, right? And so for me, I think it was always about trying to make sure I could prove that I was athletic, right? I was able to maintain some athleticism even at this level, and I was able to do more than just shoot the basketball. Like I could have an impact on defense, I could have an impact on rebounding, I could get to the hoop, and I could finish above the rim. I think for me, that was something that set me apart, and that was something that I knew from a young age, like I didn't want people to throw me in that box of unathletic. So how was I going to find ways to disprove that stereotype for myself personally? And that's kind of why I work so hard on it.
But Pat, 43-inch vert. I mean, it shouldn't have been any question.
People still say sneaky athletic, man. Sneaky athletic.
That's in your face.
Yeah.
in your mama's face. I mean, I've seen some of those tip dunks, man. You're trailing, come down the middle and throw that thing down. That sneaky ain't got nothing to do with it. That's loud.
I appreciate that.
That's loud.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
But in terms of, you talked about shooting, that you could shoot the basketball. One thing I've noticed about you, when you first got here, maybe, probably 3 years in, 3 years ago or so, you would go through struggles during the season, and that would seem to stay with you a little longer. Go through, and everybody goes through droughts where you have a tough time making outside shots. The last couple of years, I haven't seen that. I mean, you went through a little bit of a struggle the championship season. You came back and shot, 45% in the finals or whatever. But you've always been able to knock. And with you, even last year, if you're 3 for 10 during the course of a game from long range, I expect you to make that 11th shot. I mean, that's the kind of confidence I have in you. Is that something mentally that you've had to kind of try and battle yourself and find a way to kind of manage that?
My third year in the NBA, I was with Portland, and I got to play every single game. And at the beginning of the year, I was shooting 40+%. And then I hit a patch where I wasn't. And for me, it was all about, I got to make the next shot. I got to make the next shot. And what I learned in Milwaukee was the mental side of the game, right? To your point, you're not going to make every shot. You're going to go through lulls within the season where you're not making shots. What are you kind of focusing on? And if I'm trying to make the next shot, I'm not worried about that shot. Or if I'm worried about the last shot, I'm not worried about the next shot. And so the last few years, I've really tried to be more consistent. And the way I've tried to be more consistent is with that mental side. Like, how am I shooting the ball? Some of them are going to go in, some of them are not. Like, as you know, you put a great shot on it, you might hit the back rim. It felt great, you did everything right. I can't let the result of my shot dictate how I shoot the next shot. And I think for me, that's really helped me overcome that streakiness and become more consistent and find ways, especially within the course of a game, where I might be, I mean, there were games this year I was 2 for 8, 2 for 9, but I got a fourth quarter three and I had to make it. And for me, it's all about the process of shooting each shot. And I try to judge myself based off that as opposed to the result of the shot. And I didn't redo my shot, I didn't recreate it, but I just learned about it. Like, I rebuilt it from the ground up. I felt it in my feet. I knew where my feet should be when I shot a good shot. I knew where my shoulders should be over my toes. Like, I knew where my hand placement on the ball. I knew exactly where I was looking at to shoot it. And I just really kind of, during practice and during late nights shooting with him, I really tried to focus on the form of it and then kind of rethink about when I missed, what did I feel that was different? Was my hand not on it? Were my fingertips not on it? Did I not find my focal point? Like, I look at the front of the rim. Like, if I'm looking at the front of the rim after the ball gets released, I know I can shoot a pretty good shot. And so I try to find 1, 2 at the most things during pregame warmups that I want to focus on for that game. And usually it's always the front of the rim, and then it's usually 1 or 2 or one other thing within my actual mechanics of the shot. And then in practice, I focus on all of them, and I try to rebuild all of them.
You do a great job, and it seems like it's something that you've been doing. I think last year may have been the first time I really saw it a lot from you, but you'll catch it here, you won't bring it down, you'll release it here. And that's so effective in terms of beating a closeout and getting that thing off early. Yeah. How did that come about?
Same process. So I had been working on it during the year we won it 2 years back. I just wasn't confident enough in it to bring it out into games until last year. And it was the same thing, like learning my shot. I know the mechanics of it well enough that when I'm going to shoot it, the ball always gets to here. Right. Like, no matter where it starts, it always ends up to here. So I just tried to find a way to start it here in practice and just like get to the same form, do everything the same, but the ball's just starting here. And for me, I thought it could really help from like a quickness, like exactly what you're talking about. Like when you're playing with guys like Drew Holiday and Giannis and Chris, who can create their own shots at such a high level and draw so much attention, well, they're going to spray it out to you quite a bit. But when you got 2 or 3 guys on you, it's not always easy to hit somebody in the chest, right? Like, they got guys draped all over them. So I wanted to work on making bad shots, and what I learned was a lot of them were kind of up here. Right. And if I got to catch it up here and bring it down here, it gives the defender kind of time to get back and make a pretty good contest on it. And so I really drilled catching it, keeping it high, and it's something that I've gotten better and better at because over the summers I've really tried to work on it so that during the season and so that when someone's closing out, I don't have to take that extra second.
In terms of your relationship with Giannis, talk about that a bit.
Yeah.
Because you guys lift weights together, the card games on the plane, you guys have a lot of fun playing those together. Just
the first day I was in Milwaukee when I signed 4 years back, I go to the gym at night to shoot. Like, I knew for me to make it in the NBA, and that was coming off a year where I got waived, I knew for me to make it, like, I got to put in that extra time. Like, I got to be better than a streaky shooter, right? Like, that was something I had to work on. And so I came back at night, I started shooting, and about 5 minutes into it, Giannis walks in the gym, and he yells, "What are you doing here?" And I kind of looked at him, I said, I got to be here. What are you doing here? Right. Like, you're about to be the MVP. So from then, I just kind of had the utmost respect for him being able to look at himself critically and wanting to continue to make himself better and falling in love with that process of trying to make himself better. And so as the years have gone on, his desire to win basketball games more than collect stats, his desire to win championships more than collect accolades, like, he truly understands if he's doing the best that he can do to help the Milwaukee Bucks win games and win championships, the accolades and the stats, they'll come. Like, he's gifted enough and talented enough and works hard enough where those will kind of come along with it. And I can get behind a guy like that. Like, for me, I want to find a way to impact winning. Like, no matter what is happening throughout the course of a game, like you said, whether I'm shooting well or not, I want to find ways to impact the game in other ways. And, he's the guy that kind of leads us. And so to continue to develop a relationship with him, not just on the basketball court, but, card games on the plane for $2, like things that people would just love to see how competitive he is.
$2 with passion, all kinds of
100%,
trash
like
talking,
right?
passion, all kinds of stuff.
It's great, and he takes that with him, and we have fun with it. And I just look at it like the NBA is such a business, right? Like, guys get traded as if they're chess pieces, but the way that he approaches the game of basketball, the culture that he wants to build here in Milwaukee, is about getting to know people more than just on the basketball floor. And I think it translates to the basketball floor. Like, if I know you as a friend, if I know your family, if I know who Giannis is as a father, like, I want to play a little bit harder for him. I want to be the guy diving on the loose ball first, because I want to make sure that I'm doing my best to help him win, and he wants to do the same thing for me. And I think that energy and that effort is contagious throughout the organization.
You talked about Milwaukee, the community, doing things outside of basketball. Your Pat Connaughton Foundation, speak a little on that. I mean, you use basketball to kind of teach life lessons.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look, we've been fortunate to play the game at the highest level. What have sport taught me throughout the course of my life that translates to other areas? Like hard work, leadership, accountability, discipline, like the little things that I think at a young age builds habits. I want to kind of give that back to the next generation. And I know in today's world, everyone's on their phones, everyone's on their iPads, everyone's playing video games. How do we continue to help that next generation of student athletes really be out and about and active and learn teamwork and working with others and fighting through the face of adversity? Like, sports teach us such little things that the amount that people have used the game of basketball to get to a better place in life, to help their family out of situations, to get to college and put themselves in a career path. Those are things that I kind of want to make sure I continue to give back to that next generation, and that's what we're kind of all about with my foundation. We do it via redoing courts at places locally that preach those habits and preach those life lessons. We do it with our own clinics where I get on the court with these kids and talk about it and play basketball with them and teach them the basketball skills. And then we're going to try to start doing it with some scholarships for kids that kind of embody those qualities in both facets.
Well, keep doing what you're doing, man. And then you talk family, you and your dad, refurbishing apartment buildings. Initially, what are you guys doing now? Any big projects on the horizon that you want to?
For me, real estate, I grew up working on my dad's job sites. So you talk about, running hills. Well, that was after a day of hauling lumber and cleaning dumpsters and doing all those things that, kind of helped my dad make a living for my family. And so when I got into the NBA, I wanted to do something with my money that I didn't know how long I was going to be in the NBA, right? That could help me make money outside of basketball. And so real estate was that avenue I had passion in, I grew up around, and we've grown it now. It's called Three Leaf, and the idea of it, everyone thinks Notre Dame, right, with the clover. But
that's what I thought.
I know, but for me, no, it's about like athletes in business through the vehicle of real estate and kind of tying that, because I know if you've seen, like, there are a ton of athletes that are fortunate to make a lot of money, but that money doesn't always last, right? I mean, we got 5, 10, 15 years, if we're fortunate, of playing this game, and then you got 30, 40, 50 years left of life. And I think the struggles that we have as pro athletes are different than what people in their regular professional careers would have, right? Like, they're making more money as they get to 35, 40, 45, 50. Our income has kind of stopped. So how do you find ways, and how do I find ways to help guys get involved in business where they can invest in projects and I can show them how we're building them, why we're building them that way, how it's financially feasible and helpful for their generations to come. And that's what I've loved most about it, right? The real estate's the vehicle, but teaching guys how to get involved in the business and smartly invest their money so they have a means of income when their careers are done has been pretty fun.
Yeah, and I saw your dad at a game, and he introduced himself, and I told him that his son was going to be either governor or mayor of Wisconsin or Milwaukee within 15 years.
Yeah.
Any politics in your future?
No,
I don't want a commitment right now.
I appreciate that. I don't know. I mean, look, politics to me, you can't win in politics, it seems. Like, you got to pick sides and all that. I don't know if I can be a politician in my life, but I try to make the world a better place. I try to do it through my foundation. I try to do it through real estate. I try to help guys out. So we'll see what happens for me in my future. But if you got my back on it, then yeah, it's always possible.
I got you, man. I'm supporting you all the way. And finally, the Bucks this coming season. I mean, everybody stays healthy. What can we look forward to? Last year was tough because we had the shortest turnaround in NBA history. I mean, the championship season, playing through the summer. But what can the fans look forward to this season?
Yeah, I mean, I think they can look forward to more of the same. If you look at, I've been in Milwaukee for 4 years now. We won it 1 year. We lost in the bubble 1 year. But those other 2 years, my first year here when we lost to Toronto and last year when we lost to Boston, we put ourselves in positions to be championship contenders, right? You know, in Toronto, we were up 2-0 and we lost game 3 and it kind of turned around and our experience kind of got us, right? We weren't as experienced as we needed to be. Last year, you know, we don't like moral victories, but we had, you know, some injuries that kind of, and we still had a chance, right? We were up 3-2 coming home for game 6. And I think for us, we're trying to build an organization that has the ability to be a championship contender year in and year out. We may not win it every single year, but if we can learn from the times that we don't, and I think we learned a lot from that Toronto series my first year here, and I think we've learned a lot from that Boston series this year. And like, to your point, having a full offseason to get guys healthy, having a full offseason not just to get guys healthy, but to get guys back in the gym and get their bodies feeling more explosive and stronger to be ready for an 82-game season. The unfortunate part is you learn a lot more from losing than you do winning, right? Like, if you can look at yourself critically and you can take lessons, hold yourselves accountable on what we need to be better at, which I think our team's done a great job of from what I've seen so far this offseason, then you can use that as fuel to the fire. And I mean, the East is great. They've gotten some teams that have reloaded. You've got Boston, who's added a few pieces, and they're a great young core. But I think we've played better with a chip on our shoulder, and I think we've done it since the day I got here.
And speak to the coaching staff, the importance of the coaching staff in terms of creating culture. A lot of people out there think that with NBA players, talented NBA players, you just roll the balls out and they figure it out. But you know, I've watched this thing closely for the last almost 8 years now, and talk about this staff and what they bring to the table.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's from the top down. I think from ownership to management to coaching staff, the commitment to growing a winning culture. And a lot of people talk about a winning culture, but what does that actually mean? To me, it's about trying to get better every single day, holding each other accountable every single day, but making sure it feels like more than just business relationship, making sure it feels a little bit more like a family. And I think what I've seen is, you know, when you talk about Coach Bud and his coaching staff, you know, they hold Giannis as accountable as they hold me, as they hold Jordan Nwora, as they hold, you know, our rookie Marjan, right? Like, they'll hold everybody accountable to playing the right way in basketball. But also, when we win games throughout the course of the season, and we've been fortunate to win a lot more than we've lost here over the last 4 years, we learn from winning. There are times throughout the games that we win where we're not playing great. And Coach will hold us accountable. He'll show it to us in film, and he'll continue to try to push us to be the best we can be. Because when you get to the playoffs, that margin of error is so small. Like, to win in the playoffs is so much more difficult than to win during the regular season, because you're playing the same team 7 times in a row potentially. So I think the organization has done a great job of committing to culture and committing to bringing in people that fit that culture, right? Like, the NBA is loaded with talent. You got guys, in my opinion, who are among the most talented professional athletes in any sport. But that doesn't always equate to winning, right? Like, you got to have guys that buy into winning, because talent doesn't always win games. I mean, we saw it the year we won it. You know, people would probably make the argument Brooklyn was more talented than us. But we had a team that had some culture components to it. We had a team that valued winning over talent, and we had a management and coaching staff that valued fit within that culture over talent. And I think that goes a long way, and I think it's an undervalued way to build an NBA organization.
Pat, appreciate you.
Pleasure is mine, man.
Chopping it up with Olskool,
probably
man.
hang out here for a little while, you know, in
Hey,
the presidential
man,
suite.
all, man.
Yeah, I leave with the Hall of Fame.
Man.
Must be nice. I must have done something right this offseason.
We're kicking it in the presidential suite, man. Thank you, man. Appreciate you.
No, I appreciate you, man.